Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I got kind of burnt out after the last devlog from losing sleep between work and the game, and had to take some time off to unzombify. So, when I did get back to working on the project, I decided to work on the inventory despite what I said in my previous video. After a week of almost no sleep, I just honestly needed something I could work on that was a bit more mind-numbing and less stressful. Okay, so the first thing I added to the game was 9 new helmet designs, mostly just hoods, since all the previous helmets were warrior related. After that, I made icons for all the currently available items in the game. Not a ton just yet, but I think this isn't too bad to start with. You'll notice the rings and staves section are empty. I'm not sure if I want to add a jewelry slot to the game yet, and same goes for staves. I already have wands in game, and staves are basically the same thing, just two-handed. If I do add them, it'll probably be as I'm nearing the completion of the game. Next, I wrote the class script, where I added any item characteristics I could think of. And then the item database, or index, which stores the class information for all items currently available. After that, I spent about 6 days on the main inventory script, adding all the typical functionality you would expect in an inventory in, say, a game like World of Warcraft. Alright, so let's show the player inventory. When the player opens their inventory, they'll have 25 slots to store whatever items they find in-game, as well as several equipable slots representing what the player is already wearing. As I said, still deciding on if I'll add a jewelry slot, so the equipable section is still under construction. I also plan to redraw all of the icons representing the equipable slots. These are all old, low-quality icons that I made years ago for my previous game, so they're just placeholders for now. For the loot system, since I don't have combat in the game yet, just imagine the loot bag is an enemy's body, and the loot window opens when I click on them. Though I may decide to keep the loot bag idea, and just have the enemy's body disappear after dying. Okay, so the loot window rolls a number between 1 and 5. This number represents how many items will appear in the window. Then it rolls a random number for each of those slots to determine which item will appear in that loot slot. Once everything is determined, it adds the items to an array and displays them in the loot window. When you click the loot button next to each of the items, the script will cycle through the inventory to see first if you have any item slots available, and if so, it'll place the item in the first empty slot it finds. So, pretty standard stuff. You take your items from your inventory and drag them over the equipable slot to put them on your character. When you pick an item up in the inventory, it saves the location that you've taken it from. So if you drop the item off in an area that it can't be placed, it'll return the item to its previous location in the inventory. The same saved location is used for swapping item locations as well. If you pick an item up and drag it over top of another item in the inventory, it replaces the item and sends the replaced item to the saved location. I also save whatever the previous item was that you were dragging with your mouse for similar reasons. If you drag an item off the inventory window, it'll open up a delete menu asking if you want to delete the item. The same menu will open if you hover over an item and right-click. Also, you've probably noticed by now that there's only one armor set and it's fixed to the player. I do plan to add a ton of clothes and armor sets to the game. It's just a lot more work to draw than just drawing a hat or weapon. I also still have to add a little info window that pops up when you mouse over an item so you know what you're looking at. But with that aside, I think I'm pretty well done with the inventory. With the exception of the character stat window, now that I have the inventory window, spell window, and action bar out of the way, I basically have the main foundation made for the game and can finally start working on actual gameplay. Okay, so 6 weeks in, despite taking 5 days off from the game to catch up on sleep, I'm still feeling pretty good about my progress so far. I also managed to write the inventory system with less than half the lines of code, despite making it more functional compared to my previous game. Just over 4K lines of code here versus the just under 11,000 lines of code for my previous game. Though, to be fair, my old code also dealt with networking and making sure each equipped item was visible to the other players on the network. Yeah, people that are actually skilled at programming are probably facepalming at the thought of writing 11,000 lines of code just for an inventory script. But what can I say? At least I'm improving. So if you'd like to keep up with my weekly progress outside of YouTube, or if you're an indie game creator yourself and want to show off your own game, I've set up a Discord where indie game developers can come together, collaborate, show off their own work, or even just chat all things game design. I also have an absolute ton of tutorials prepared for new creators for many different programs, as well as plenty of game design related media to keep people motivated and entertained. So for those who are interested, you can find the link in the description. All that said, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.